Those are some of those lies we've talked about before. That, they feel like they can't conquer something because the problem's too big and something's too hard for them.
I think what's important is we kind of look at those particular things as understanding the importance of our perceptions and how that really ends up impacting the way that we interact with the world.
The older I get and the more clients I've worked with and continue to work with, the more I realize our perception of reality is very low.
Take time to notice what either went right or what could I do differently. And notice the shift or change that happens in your emotions when you do that.
Right.
Welcome everyone back to another episode of The Lighter Side of Heavy Things, a podcast where two therapists, myself, Chris Clark, along with my co-host here, Dwayne Horton, kind of discuss and talk about some of the lighter sides of those heavy things that we tend to deal with in our work as therapists.
Right.
So this week we kind of brought in I guess there was a study both of us came across that we thought was kind of interesting and kind of fitting in with the I guess you'd say kind of recent topics we've been focusing on, those ideas of focusing on controlling our thoughts, thinking, all that sort of stuff, and the impacts that has on us.
Right. But it also is kind of because it fits what our clients are struggling with.
Right.
Everybody in this world is dealing with creating their world, their perception, and there's an old term that we use, like back in the 80s and 90s. It's called locus of control, right? It's not something that's often talked about. And I like kind of how you described those two different versions of internal and external locus of control. What is that, so people can understand that?
Yeah. So I guess you'd say the idea of the internal idea of the locus of control, because there's two different ones that they talk about, internal, external. Mm-hmm. But when we're talking about internal, it's talking about that idea that I believe that I have value, or the thoughts or feelings that I have within myself are what is the most important. Right? It doesn't necessarily maybe matter perhaps what people say or might think, because I believe this regarding myself, right?
Right. So kind of putting that in layman's terms, like you did a great job, but like my client who has a strong internal sense of self-control, of locus of control, is someone who's going to feel confident, is what people are going to know them as, right? They're not going to feel like other people's opinions going to pressure them to do things or make them believe things. They think that they have the ability internally to conquer the world.
Right.
Right?
Right. And then looking at, I guess you would say, the external locus of control, that's where we kind of weigh everything else, what we're taking in from others or the world, as being more valuable, right? This is where we start to believe when something happens to us, right? I'm unlucky, or bad things always happen to me. It's up to fate whether or not something good happens to me or not. I don't have a lot of control in my life.
Right. So if they succeed, it's not because they put hard work in, they did the diligence. It's they succeed because the universe loved them that moment.
Yeah,
they had good
the
karma.
Stars aligned.
Right? Which is something we deal with and see all the time when people struggle with depression and anxiety, right? Mm-hmm. Those are some of those lies we've talked about before. That, they feel like they can't conquer something because the problem's too big. Something's too hard for them.
Right. Right. That it's not because of me, it's because of everything else.
Right.
But typically, as you brought in, they found that people who, I guess you would say, have more of an external locus of control tend to be more anxious, more depressed.
Yes.
Have those particular struggles in their life.
Absolutely good connection.
So I think what's important is we kind of look at those particular things as understanding the importance of our perceptions and how that really ends up impacting the way that we interact with the world.
Right. And that's what that Dartmouth SCAR study, and we'll put it attach a link to the study.
Yeah, if you like some light reading.
Yeah. This is what gets us excited, y'all.
Yeah.
But this Dartmouth study is really good, kind of tying the link between how we perceive our own self-perceptions, our own internal and external locus controls, and kind of the conditions, and put them into conditions and test it, how the world perceives us based of our own perceived weakness.
Right.
So why don't you give a quick summary of some of those conditions and stuff?
Yeah. So the study was set up pretty simple, I guess you would say, in the idea that they got a group of individuals and they split these individuals, these participants, into three groups.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They had those who were going to have a physical scar that would run from their ear down to their chin, and then they had another group that were going to have epilepsy, and they had another group that had allergies.
And my favorite part of the participants in this study is that they were college kids.
Yes.
So you're already, young adults,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are already trying to find their own internal and external locus of control, find their own ability in the world, just launching.
Right.
Right?
And so these three groups, they were told that here's a questionnaire. We're going to fill it out, and it's just going to have basic information on it. This is going to be given to someone who's going to sit down with you in an interview type of setting, and they're just going to talk with you about, how do we make friends, basically. A very, very safe topic. And so
I have clients who would beg to differ,
right?
Making friends.
Well, it's fun again, I guess, come back to the idea of college kids, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's probably something more safe than, I guess, talking politics or religion, or
especially now. Yeah.
So
or even gaming.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
And so they were given a questionnaire. Now the SCAR group, they were given just a single page. The epilepsy and allergy, they were given 2 pages.
Mm-hmm.
What was different is, as on the second page, there was a section where they basically would write out, I have epilepsy or I have an allergy, but it's under control with medications. Now, what they were told is their responses were going to be given to this interviewer. Now but it was only the first page. The epilepsy and allergy, they actually took those pages and they tossed them. So the interviewers didn't know that was an issue, I guess, right? And so the interviewers, there were 2 interviewers, and basically their instructions were, we just want you, here's the topic, but we just want you to try to treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to look at, is if you can stay the same. Now, the SCAR people, what was interesting, they had a makeup artist.
So real quick, just to kind of build into that. So really what they were studying is not so much the interviewer.
Right.
They were studying the perceptions of the people with either the SCAR, the epilepsy, or allergy group.
Right.
How they perceived the outcome of this interview went.
Yes. How they thought they were treated.
Right.
Right. And so the SCAR group, when they, I guess their preparation for this is they had a makeup artist come in, put a SCAR again running from their right ear down to their mouth or their chin. And after the SCAR was applied, the makeup, they were given a mirror. And they looked in the mirror and they were kind of like, hey, do you see it? Does it look good? And they were like, yeah. And then the makeup artist would take the mirror and then say, hey, I'm going to apply a moisturizer just to make sure that nothing cracks, right, during this interview, because you're going to be talking and moving your jaw. And they were like, oh, okay. What they didn't know, though, is that moisturizer actually removed all of the scarring makeup.
Yes.
Right?
So they basically went in as if they were themselves.
Yes.
Without any scar, no notice or anything.
Right.
Even though that participant didn't understand that.
Right, yeah. So they did not know that the scar or the makeup was removed. They didn't, because they didn't have the mirror, right?
Right.
And anyway, so then they went into this interview. And in this interview, it was a 6-minute short interview talking about how to make friends, basically. And following that, the participants, right, the SCAR epilepsy allergy participants, were given a questionnaire that basically where they were asked to detail how they thought the interview went, and they had certain, I guess you would say, points that they had them score what they thought the interviewer, how their perceptions were towards them. And what they found is that for the SCAR participants, they had the highest feeling of there being a negative impact, right? That they were being judged or treated differently, or they kept looking at my cheek, right?
So the participant was sensitive to the eye movement and gaze of the interviewer,
Right.
right?
Right.
They became hyper aware in that situation because they thought they had this dysformity.
Mm-hmm. And so they out of all the scores showed very high levels of feeling judged, I guess you would say, for lack of a better word, in these different areas, right? Now,
Meaning, what that means, though, as far as perception, though, they left feeling like they weren't good enough.
right,
They
right.
felt that external locus of control was being placed on them, that I
Mm-hmm.
was treated differently because of this, an external factor, something they couldn't control,
Right.
right?
And what's also interesting is that the epilepsy group, they actually scored really high as well. And in some cases, it was pretty dang close to the SCAR group in certain areas.
Yes, in
Right?
certain areas.
In certain areas. Not all areas. SCAR was the highest across the board. Epilepsy, though, in some areas was actually pretty high. But the areas where epilepsy was the highest was things where it was more of that anxiety or feelings of tension, right? Those sorts of things. They felt like the other person might be worried about them, that they might just fall over and start seizing or something like
Right. They're like, they wouldn't want to be my friend because,
that. Mm-hmm.
what if I have an episode,
Right.
you know?
And then the allergy group, they were very low, I guess you would say, across the board.
Right.
They didn't perceive that them having an allergy really impacted the quality of the interview or what that person thought of them. Now, what was interesting is that during this study, they had cameras positioned in there that were recording the whole interview, right? And what they asked these participants is to look over the tapes and point out at times when they thought that the interviewer treated them differently.
Right.
Right? Now, what's important to understand is that they draped or covered half of the television so they couldn't see themselves. They could only see the person who was interviewing them. And so that was noticed, that was talked about. And then what the researchers did is they brought in people who completely knew, they didn't know or understand anything, and they were just asked, hey, we want you to watch these tapes, and we just want you to we're going to give you this questionnaire, and I just want you to notice if there's any variance or difference, or what do you think about it?
Right. But kind of like the overall findings is that those who were in the study in the SCAR group were more affected by an external locus of control.
Right.
Epilepsy at parts, but they were similar. There was some element of it.
Mm-hmm.
Their perceptions were altered by a condition inside of them, a preconceived thing, right?
Right.
Something that was not legitimate in this case, in the sense that it was real or lasting because they made it up.
Right.
But it brings into the effect of like, if I have something about me, maybe I don't have hair, right?
Yeah.
Women don't like bald people,
Yeah.
right? Or I'm, short, I'm too tall,
Mhm.
I'm not the right body shape. These things seem to impact the world. It's kind of what the big findings of everything, right?
Right.
And that, as you were bringing in, that those people that came in and watched, these outside observers who weren't really a part of the study,
Right.
their perceptions of watching the whole interaction weren't affected by it because they're like, no, it seemed normal.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they looked at it and they pretty much scored across the board. It all looked pretty equal.
Yeah.
Right?
It all was like fine. The allergy group, it's an allergy, right?
Right.
Some allergies are severe, peanut, right? And
Yeah.
tree nut, things like that, right? But for the most part, those are very mild concerns. People didn't see that. They weren't reactive because the perception of impact was very low.
Right. But epilepsy and having a scar, very high.
Very high. And that comes into with our clients. Like this whole idea of when we come into this, like with our clients, right?
Mhm.
They come in, hey, I've got depression, I've got anxiety, I've got, this family history, I have this trauma history, I've met these people online, I've made these stupid choices in my past. They start to create a lack of control, a self-control within these people. And it's that their perception then goes out and they go and interact with the world and they're finding what they're wanting,
Yeah.
looking for in the world, right? They're seeing these results in the world of, oh, this person doesn't like me because I'm this way.
Yes. Right. It kind of comes into that idea of confirmation bias,
Yes.
right? Of if I'm looking for it, I will find it or I will see it.
Right. I mean, and unfortunately, the nature of everything in our world right now is that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, this is so important, just on my couples level, right? Or, individual family. I mean, even my teenagers, right? Talking about how, like, hey, what went on this week for you? This, and like, oh, I got in a fight with my sister or my brother,
Yeah.
you know,
They
and
hate
then
me.
they hate me. And, oh, my mom loves my brother so much more than me. Oh, what tells you that?
Uh-huh.
And and we're exploring that with them. And to me, it's kind of it's an interesting dynamic to explore. Does really mom really love brother more than them? Right? Or
Right.
is it the fact that maybe mom actually just agrees with how your brother's seeing the world a little bit better than you right now?
Right.
Because your own idea of or perception might be off a little bit.
Right. Well, and you mentioned like with couples, I see it quite frequently, where they'll be like, an event will happen, someone responds in a certain way, and the other person will take it as, well, they hate me or they don't love me or whatever, right? And when you really break it down with them, you're kind of like, well, why would you believe that or why would you think that? And they were like, well, if I did that, that's what it would mean, right? Or that's why I would do that. And then you ask the other person, well, why did you? And you get an answer of like, well, I was feeling a lot of emotion, but I didn't think it was fair for me to explode or jump on this other person's case. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to calm myself. I'm not going to say what's on my mind right now. I'm going to step back. The other person perceives that as, oh, they're pulling away from me. They don't love me. Right?
Right.
This isn't important to them. And it's like, no, it's actually really important to them, but they're also trying to be considerate as well. But again, we're putting out there what our own perception or belief is.
Right. And that's, the older I get and the more clients I've worked with, and continue to work with, the more I realize our perception of reality is very loose.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that I don't think people are being genuine, and not that I don't think that they're telling me that they're telling me a lie. But we got to understand that this is what the importance of the Dartmouth study is. The SCAR study is that how our preconceived ideas of our world affect how we interact, view, and interpret our world.
Yeah.
Right? If I think I'm scarred and broken and no one wants to be with me, how is that going to affect the way I stand up with try to, show bravery and go and work on a new project at work and
Right.
be assertive. There's the word I'm looking for. How's that going to affect? If I'm broken and not good, how am I going to be assertive?
Yeah.
Right?
Or how am I going to feel like I have value?
How am I going to feel like I have value? Or, but then it's so complex, and that's the part that I think people get stuck in, and the danger that you brought up last time about validation.
Yeah.
Right? People want to be validated. Being validated feels good,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with validation. It's just, are people giving us the best self? One of my favorite quotes from a guy who is he says, "Who is your real friend?
Mm-hmm.
The one who tells you what you want to hear, or the one who tells you what you need to hear?"
Yeah.
And that's such a valuable question to me when it comes to the idea of internal, external locus of control and perception. Like if my friend's telling me, hey, I didn't get this job because, I'm black, or which has actually happened.
Yeah.
Or I didn't get this job because I'm a woman, which I've actually had too. I'm thinking, okay, either we take that as an idea of saying you have no ability to control that world,
Yes.
and now you were doomed because of your color of your skin and because of
Your gender.
your
Or
gender,
whatever.
right? Whatever. In the two cases I'm thinking of, those were the two identifying factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we could take that as an internal locus of control and say, hey, what am I lacking? What did they see in others that might have been lacking in me that I could control?
Yeah. Or is it, I guess, in that case as well, I'd wonder with those individuals, did they ask when they were found out maybe they didn't get the job or the position or whatever it is, to ask the individual who told them, why didn't I? Or what could I do better next time?
Right. Those are internal locus of control questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are great things. And those are with my clients. So it's like with my teens in therapy. It's like, hey, look, do you think that maybe mom just saw things differently?
Yeah.
Maybe that could be what it is.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not mom is just like, done, like with you. Maybe it's just mom is just done with the situation and whatever leads to peace.
Right.
Maybe mom's world has been chaotic all day.
Mm-hmm.
So it has absolutely nothing to do with you that why she got grumpy.
Yep.
Right?
It wasn't your fault.
Helping our clients understand and see this and build that internal locus of control, because internal locus of control really starts searching inward.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could start feeling like, okay, there are things I can change, there are things I can't change. Maybe I can start liking those things about me that I can't change.
Right.
I had a friend, my best friend growing up, I can't even tell you what the name of it was because it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
But he had a birthmark over his eye and over this part of his face. And so he had no vision in this eye, but nothing could phase this man.
Mm-hmm.
Like he recognized, yep, I'm limited on things that I can and can't do.
Yeah.
But he had his parents built in him that strong internal compass of, no, you can do things, you will do things, you will not fail.
Mm-hmm.
And failing wasn't an option for him. They motivated him in a way to be better.
Yeah.
To see the world differently. And he's gone on to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I've always admired that about him. The difference is his perception. His perception of his problem wasn't that, oh, I'm doomed because of this problem. His perception of his problem was, I can't influence that. But I can influence all these things, and I'm going to focus my attention on those things.
Yeah. Noticing what is within my control.
Right?
Right. Which is a very DBT approach.
Yes.
Right?
Right. That's exactly right. Yes. I didn't intend to bring that in, but yes.
So I believe that it's very important that not only for our clients, but we hope a lot of our listeners understand is instead of focusing on the things, what went wrong and those things being out of my control, perhaps take time to notice what either went right or what could I do differently. And notice the shift or change that happens in your emotions when you do that.
Right.
Because for most people, you have a greater sense of peace because it is something that you feel you can actually control rather than focusing on, those ideas of fate that we have no control over.
Right. I would add to that too. I love that. Notice what we have control, right? What can we do? But I would also say if it's like a personal thing,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm broken or I'm not good enough, right? These bad things, traumas happen to me. Take your perception away from that and say, you know what? Maybe if my partner knows this about me, maybe that's not what they're focusing on. So maybe start being curious about what they actually see in me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that will change a lot of the quality of the relationships that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because, I'll have times I know, for example, with my wife, where she will point out some physical thing about herself or something that she doesn't like, or, I hate this, or about da 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 da. And I'm just like, I don't even notice that.
Right.
I don't even pay attention to those types of things. But it's easy for us to notice those things we don't like about ourselves. But again, when we start doing that, that brings into that external locus of control, because we believe if I don't like this about me, then everyone else must not like this, or that's what everyone else is noticing. And that's not true.
So in essence, it's saying looking a little bit more beyond. So let's move away from pessimism and look toward optimism, not rose-colored glasses,
Right.
but looking through the idea of, hey, what can I do? What can I influence? Maybe what can I see different? How can I change my perception by noticing something different?
Right.
See what happens. That's a challenge.
Yes.
This is saying, hey, look, you could test these Dartmouth studies without having to put a scar on your face.
Yeah.
This perceptions could change simply by yourself. And this is what we do with clients. This is why it doesn't get heavy in therapy.
Yeah.
Is because we see that. This is why hardships don't bother us. Because we know that there's other explanations, other possibilities, other growth.
Right.
And we don't have to solve everything right now.
Yeah. And so, maybe it's a challenge, or we challenge you, I guess I should say, to just try, because, there's something that I know for every one of us, characteristic, whether it's internal or external, that we don't like about ourselves. So perhaps this upcoming week, just try to not make comments about it. Don't think about it. Just do what it is that you need to do during that week, and notice just what changes by not focusing on that one particular thing.
Well, right. And to kind of wrap it up here with that, that's that pause technique again we're bringing back, right? Saying thinking is the root of all suffering, right? The same thing would be, for a quick example, if I feel like I'm broken, say, I might feel that way, but I've also done hard things. I know it's there, and it's okay that it's there. But I'm going to focus something else. And that's just the same thing as just pushing it away. Not like burying it. We acknowledged it. We're not dismissing it, but we're trying to find courage to see something different.
Yeah.
We're bringing that pause technique back a little bit there.
Choosing to focus on something else.
Yes. So follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We've got ideas on still where we're going with things. If people have questions, a lot of this is for us.
Yeah.
We have fun.
Yep.
You should see us nerd out talking about studies. But we'd love for you all to see, if you have questions, we'd interact. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, right?
Yep.
And then I'll be launching the After Hours, another channel with us. It's kind of pseudo launched. It's just, I haven't officially made the channel because I got to figure out that, correct?
Yeah.
But the content's there. So we'll get that put together. But thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.